bridge fishing. This is probably how most people will be fishing. So I decided to make a how-to video on how I fish from bridges here in the Southern Keys. Now, my way isn't the only way. There's no one way to do anything. This is just how I do it, and I figured I'd share it with you. And just like any fishing trip, it all begins with the bait. So I'm at my bait spot right now, and I usually run pinfish. Why pinfish? Well, I use pinfish because if you use pilchards or shrimp, the bait snatchers are gonna steal them off the hooks constantly. You know, bait snatchers will typically ignore the pinfish, and that's why I always run pinfish. And this discussion about pinfish will also brings me to the subject of lead weights. A lot of people like to use lead weights. I don't bother with them, especially when I'm using pinfish, because pinfish will naturally swim down to the bottom. You know, even if they're struggling in the current, and you want them to struggle in the current, and I'll get to that later. But even if they're struggling in current, they will naturally, their instinct is to go down into the grass where those ambush predators are. So, I mean, you can use lead weights and just force them there, but, you know, again, let's get to the currents. You know, those ambush predators are used to seeing fish getting caught in the current and drifting along their plane of view and then coming out from the structure and biting them. So that's the kind of presentation you want. And you can cover like the entire bridge that way. You know, just, okay, I'm not catching any hookups here, so I'm gonna move 20 feet down the bridge and just let that bait drift. So no lead weights for me. Another thing I wanted to just quickly discuss is the pole, the fishing rod. I just use a 6-footer. You know, I'm not trying to cast out 50 yards. And if you do want to get, you know, you want to try an area that's 50 feet away from the bridge or something, you know, again, let the bait drift out there. That's just a much better way of doing it, a much better presentation versus the fish falling from the sky and hitting the fish on the head. You know, you want the bait to just naturally drift out there for a couple reasons. The main reason is because those ambush predators, you know, they're sitting in that hole or in the grass 50 feet away from the bridge facing the current. You know, they are literally waiting for that bait fish to get caught in that current and go by their plane of view. Now I'm going to put those tips in motion for you. I'm literally going to show you how I do this from the bridge. But first things first, I got to catch these baits. So I'll catch y'all later. And just like that, y'all, that's how you do it. Only spent maybe 10 minutes at this bridge. It's worth putting in the effort getting that bait.